Kingsley, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Um, I'd really like to start if you could give us a bit of a snapshot on the state of football talent, the state of the football talent pool and the game in Africa.
Thanks for having me. Interesting question. Today, Africa represents the biggest youth population in the world. It has 70% of its population under the age of 30. It has a football culture. It has fast-growing economies, but the infrastructure is still lagging behind as compared to more developed areas of the world, like North America, Europe, and South America. And so there's an underrepresentation of Africans at the very top of the game. There are several reasons for that.
And so, what are the kind of the opportunities, but as well the challenges with talent development in Africa?
No, what's happening today in the world is, first of all, talent development is a time-consuming, expensive, and unpredictable exercise. And so footballers today are the most desired assets or commodities in the game because top level footballers are not replicatable. So if you want another Messi, you cannot create another one. You have to buy Messi. So if you look at the financial flows today, the clubs earn colossal revenue from TV rights and sponsorship, but that money gets immediately spent on talent, in wages, and in transfer fees. And the reason for this is because the talented players are the main actors. Now, if you look at what's happening in Africa today, Africa is very disconnected from the global ecosystem. And so, with all the huge sums of money floating in the game, there's a little trickle down effect, and that's a problem. Really, from an Afrocentric perspective, from a global perspective, the game is very well developed in certain parts of the world. We can see countries like Serbia, Croatia, Uruguay that are outperforming even larger countries like China, for example. Uruguay just has 4 million people, but it's producing world-class players. Serbia, Croatia, that's because they have the culture and the infrastructure. And I think you can see it with the case of the United States. A lot of top Americans going to top clubs at the moment, which means there's a catching up effect. It's a country with a tradition of producing talent. And I think over the years to come, with technology having democratized the space, we'll see an expansion in the pool of talented players coming from different parts of the world.
Why do some nations, you think, kind of overachieve in terms of talents vis-a-vis others? And especially at times you see smaller countries that produce an outsized number of talent. I think about the Netherlands and Belgium versus larger nations kind of seem to struggle at times still to kind of catch up. Why is there a difference?
Infrastructure, culture, systems, and resources. The Netherlands has one of the best development platforms in the world, a tradition for excellence. They're football purists. Portugal is another one with 9 million people. Portugal probably has a bigger representation in the Champions League than Africa with 1 billion people. It comes down to economics, culture, infrastructure, and resources.
In Africa, where do you think are going to be the next kind of hotbeds for kind of global talent?
I think in Africa at the moment, the West Africans edge it at the moment. Senegal has a very robust infrastructure and recently has been producing a lot of players. Mali is doing well. Ghana has a tradition. Nigeria is still underperforming, but has huge potential because of the population, the size. And I think Nigeria is one country that can match Brazil in terms of player production. But I would say I would take a bet that the next wave of great African players will come from East Africa because of the population and athletic culture. Countries like Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, I think we'll see more players coming from these countries over the next 5 to 10 years.
Why talent has become the most prized commodity in global football? What's the reason behind that? If you can go a little deeper, please.
The reason behind that is because talent put bums on seats. They are the actors. They generate the revenue because fans want to see extraordinary talent. And because they're not, top talent is not replicatable, as I said before. you cannot buy another Ronaldo. You cannot create another Messi. And so there's a huge premium on the top players.
Just one follow-up question. Do you think China and India are likely to kind of catch up in this kind of talent development race?
Absolutely. I think China will in the coming years, they haven't got it right at the moment because there's a lot of autocratic capital flowing into Chinese football. And that autocratic capital is not necessarily, those who deploy that autocratic capital are not necessarily football savvy. So there's a clash in China because authority comes from above and it's very, very difficult to implement. But China has the resources. I personally have been fortunate to travel China extensively over the last 5 years. They have the resources, they're building world-class infrastructure. And I just think it's a matter of time before they get it right. And if Korea can produce players, China can produce players. So I think China, like the United States, will not be whipping boys in 20 years' time.
Are we in a bubble of valuation? And is that bubble potentially about to burst given the pandemic?
My view is very clear. It's a function of demand and supply. Where there's demand and there's limited supply, as we see with top level talent, then the prices go up. We also have to look at athletes as not just individuals but brands. If you think that Cristiano Ronaldo has more social media followers than Nike, than the entire Premier League put together, you realize that he becomes a very, very marketable commodity. And on a worldwide basis, his image, right, you would actually say the price that is paid for him is quite modest. I think that Felix will serve Atletico de Madrid for another 10 years and is desired by other big clubs, then I think his value holds true. So I don't think it's an exaggerated amount or a bubble. I think it's just driven by demand and supply. And don't be surprised, we are not far away from the world's next 1 billion footballer. I would say I'll put it at 10 to 15 years.